and is currently the Academic Affairs Administrator of IAP TNSC. I warmly welcome you, sir.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, respected teachers and my dear friends. Good afternoon, everyone. It is a very joyful feeling to address on a very interesting topic actually. எல்லாருமே எதிர்பார்த்துட்டு இருக்கோம் எப்போ குழந்தைங்களுக்கு வந்து கோவிட் வேக்சின் ஏன்னா எல்லாரோட பிராக்டிஸ் கேட்டுட்டு இருக்காங்க எப்போ வருது குழந்தைங்களுக்கு தடுப்பூசி எப்போ வரப்போகுதுன்ட்டு. So we're going to discuss on a very interesting topic. We'll go to the topic per se. So this is like a test cap for me actually. எல்லாருக்கும் தெரியும் T20 50 overs match ஆனா கூட டெஸ்ட் மேட்ச்ல ஆடும்போது it gives more pleasure actually. எவ்வளோ ஃபோரம்ல நம்ம பேசினாலும் when it comes to our state forum, state Medicon, it gives it's like a test cap for me. Thank you. And my respects to my teacher. Without them, I'll not be here. Thank you. And this is about me. Fine. The scope of today's discussion will be going in this aspect actually. First of all, we'll look at what is the need for COVID vaccine in children. Next, what are the currently available COVID vaccines across the globe? What is available in India currently? In children, what are the vaccines in store? What is the impact of COVID vaccine in children? And finally, we'll have some key messages. So the first thing we have to keep at the back of our mind is we'll have to see why children need to be vaccinated, whether it is for the real protection of the child or something else. So we have to look on that aspect. And second thing is the second half of the talk will be on the vaccine per se. So this is one thing this slide should make all of us proud actually. If you just see the amount of vaccine doses which have been administered so far, India stands second actually. We are nearly 3 times of what US has vaccinated, nearly 10 times what Russia has vaccinated. We are next to China. In spite of the various constraints and various difficulties we face, in spite of it, we were able to do a good vaccination percentage. So it's a proud moment for all of us to say, Thai Manne Vanakkam. Fine. What is peculiar about the burden of the disease in children? The first thing is the symptoms in children are very, very peculiar. In fact, most of them are asymptomatic so far. And very few children are affected with severe diseases and very few deaths actually from COVID-19. This is one of the data which has been taken from the WHO, which has been presented to the WHO from all the fellow nations. This is starting from December 2019 to October 2021. If you look at, you stratify the children's age category into 3 groups actually. One is children who are less than 5 years, who account to nearly just 2% of the total global cases, and just 0.1% is the death rate here. If you look at the children between 5 to 14 years, the global case load is around 7%, and the death rate is around 0.1%. And the young adolescent and older older adolescent and young adults actually, the age category from 14 to 24, where you have 15% of the global case burden, and just 0.4% is the death rate actually. So if you take the less than 24 years age category, the total global cases is 24%, and the total death rate is only 0.6%. So what is the current COVID vaccination status in our country? So this was compiled as on 6th of December, the day on which I prepared this slide actually. We have given so far 128.8 crore doses of COVID vaccine in our country, of which 80.3 crores were the first dose, 48.5 crores was the second dose, and still around 32 crore people are still left to get vaccinated with the second dose of COVID vaccine. And also, the target which the government fixed at the initiation of COVID vaccine was 60% with both the doses by December 2021. But actually, if we go by current status, it will work out to around 41% with the 2 doses by December 2021 because of the various constraints which we face. If you look at the demography and the population size of our country, what is very, very important is the gray part which we should concentrate. That is the 39%. The 39% reflects the children who are less than 18 years of age. So almost 39% of our population is still left unprotected. So that is the key point in the slide. So in children, we just can't leave off, but still we have to concentrate on a few category of children where they can face more damage, like children who have hyperreactive airway disease like your asthma, children with chromosomal anomalies like your Down syndrome, obese children, we should be very, very careful, children with neuromuscular disorders, children with genetic disorders, and also children with other endocrine anomalies, abnormalities like your diabetes mellitus. So these children, we have to be very, very careful. So what is peculiar in children and adolescents is that since they have very fewer and very milder symptoms, there is less frequent care seeking. We practice adults phone we used to tell zinc vitamin C. That's how most of us manage during the tough first and second wave. And because of that, we do less testing. Adults test they just ignore it. And most of the cases go unreported. So the facts and the figures which I've projected in the previous slide may even be much lesser than what it actually is. The role of children and adolescents in transmission of the virus, if you look at it, there was a sero survey which was conducted between June and July 21. That was after the second wave. Okay. What was observed was the seropositivity rate in children who were between 6 to 18 years of age was almost similar to what it was observed in adults. Okay. And whether the schools were opened or closed, infection rate in children and adults were almost similar. School allam moodi vechtom, lockdown vittom, ellam pannom. But if you look at the real picture, 6 to 18 years category ko, above 18 years category ko, there's not much of a difference. So we'll look at the different perspective of COVID in children. We are going to look at the socio-economic impact of COVID pandemic in children and how these children reacted to this pandemic. The children and adolescents have been disproportionately affected by COVID control measures despite the low risk of COVID-19 infection. Because of the school closure, there was disruption of the educational service, more emotional stress, more mental stress. Children were more prone to maltreatment actually. They had a lot of sexual violence, child marriage, adolescent pregnancy, all these creeped up in the past 1 year actually. So all these increase the probability of further missing education actually. So these things we are going to face in the years to come. So what are the follow-on effect of school closure? Loss of access. So see, number school not only we are going to give education, number in rural part of our country, not only education is given for the children, they get good midday meal schemes, food. They get other forms of health checkups. They get deworming, all these things, iron medications also given for the adolescent girls. So there's loss of access to a wide range of school provided services like your school meals, health visits, nutrition, good water and sanitation hygiene. Services which are targeted to children with special needs like learning support, speech therapy got affected. Increased risk of cyberbullying and there's slowly the marginalization of learning. Or 10 or 15 years, slowly we are getting back. Exacerbation of pre-existing inequality. And the routine immunization services being negatively affected. The vaccination, we are the bread and butter of our practices, vaccination. We are missing it badly. And the resurgence of vaccine preventable disease because of that. So all these things were the follow-on effects of school closure. So what WHO estimates is around 24 million children are at risk of not returning to school owing to the pandemic. This is a very, very grave situation. So let us go to the vaccine per se, for which we are all waiting for. So what are the WHO approved vaccines? So we have two Chinese vaccines. One is your Sinopharm and your Sinovac. These are inactivated vaccines. Next is your mRNA vaccine, your Pfizer vaccine. Then you have your inactivated Covaxin, that is our own indigenous vaccine prepared in our country. Then we have the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, the AD26.4 and the Oxford AstraZeneca marketed as Covishield in our country. And also a Sputnik V. So these are the vaccines which are their WHO approved vaccines globally. If you look at the slide, you can see the name of the vaccine, the type of the vaccine, which category they belong to, and also the approval status where they stand currently, and the number of clinical trials which were done for the vaccine. So all these things are depicted in this slide. So what are the WHO approved vaccines currently in children? Number but what is there across the globe? So COVID vaccines are already in use in Western and developed nations. The efficacy, what they have observed so far in the category of children whom they have vaccinated is the efficacy and immunogenicity were similar or higher compared to adults actually. These are good signs. And the safety and reactogenicity profile in adolescents were almost similar to young adults. So this group behaved like almost young adults. And also, initially the vaccine was introduced from 12 to 18 years category, and now it has been introduced even in children who are above 7 years of age. Okay. So any vaccine or vaccine on the automatica, there will be some issues which the vaccine is going to face. So in the vaccine, in the mRNA vaccine, if you go through it, there were risk of myocarditis and pericarditis, which was reported with the mRNA vaccine, which was more observed in older adolescents and young adult population. Usually observed after the second dose or a few days. Risk is not fully determined. Generally, the symptoms are very mild and they respond very well to the conservative treatment. And they are very less severe and they have a very good outcome compared to the classical myocarditis. That is what the papers and literature says. And what they have observed keenly is that the risk of myocarditis, pericarditis, adult immunization, what they felt was it gives a good health returns in terms of investment. And higher income countries who have done a good job in vaccinating the adults, they are slowly shifting their gears towards adolescents and childhood vaccination. So what is the rationale for vaccinating adolescents and children? See, the vaccinating children and adolescents may help advance other highly valued societal goals, which I told you. In a setting with a very high seropositivity rate, like our country. And the benefit of vaccinating children and adolescents go beyond the direct health benefits. We have more of social benefits because of the vaccination. So what are the COVID-19 vaccines currently may be available in our country shortly? We are going to talk about 5 vaccines predominantly. We have the ZyCoV-D from Zydus Cadila. We have the Covaxin from Bharat Biotech. We have the Covovax from Serum Institute. We have the RBD from Biological Ease. And we have the J&J vaccine. So we are going to talk a little about each of the vaccine. And then we'll see who's in the race first. In the vaccine may come out to the market first. Let's go to, so this is the race. We'll just see who's going to come out first. So let's talk about ZyCoV-D. There's a lot of talk about this vaccine. First, the lot of talk actually. It is actually a plasmid DNA vaccine. It has a very short shelf life of just 6 months actually. What the studies have proven during the phase 2 and the phase 3 trial results say is that it gives robust immunogenicity, tolerability and safety profile during the clinical trial. So there was excellent profile when it comes to the immunogenicity, tolerability and safety issues. It was approved for emergency use on 20th August 2021 for use in children between 13 to 18 years of age. The technical advisory group also has not yet made any recommendations so far regarding the childhood vaccination. It's still in the wait for children. The reasons are unknown. Currently, there's a talk about it being administered for adults first actually. Maybe they are planning to introduce in the 7 states of Jharkhand, Bihar, Punjab, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, and West Bengal first. What is very different about the ZyCoV-D vaccine is that it is an intradermal DNA vaccine. As we all know, the mRNA vaccine, we have to administer into the cell wall administer panale podum. Whereas for an intradermal DNA vaccine, you have to enter into the nucleus. That is the basic difference between an RNA vaccine and a DNA vaccine. So here you can't introduce into the muscle. You have to introduce into the dermis, because the dermis, you have a lot of the receptors and the catching cells for the particular antigen. So that we have a special technique called PharmaJet actually. It is a painless intradermal delivery system. We have 3 doses actually on day 0, 28 and 56. 2 shots in each arm. It is 0.1 ml on each arm and totally 6 shots. So this is about the ZyCoV-D. Next, we'll go to the next vaccine, which is Covaxin. This is the BBV152. It is India's first indigenous COVID-19 vaccine, which was developed in collaboration with our ICMR and our National Institute of Virology. It is manufactured by Bharat Biotech under strict safety precautions, like including our BSL-3, which is a very, very safe manufacturing machine actually. It's a biosafety level 3. Here we have the whole virion inactivated virocell derived. The whole virus is being deactivated and is being inoculated. So the technology which we call is known as the whole virion inactivated virocell derived platform technology. It contains dead virus, as I already mentioned. It is almost similar to the seasonal flu, polio, JE, pertussis, rabies vaccine, which have been using for a very long period. Because that is one reason this vaccine was well accepted among the medical fraternity when it was first introduced, even before the phase 3 trial results came out actually. Because we had immense faith on it, especially as pediatricians. And it is a well-estimated and time-tested platform in the world of vaccine technology. It is 2 doses as it is being followed in adults, 0.5 ml, 28 days apart. Age group is 2 to 18 years. This is a very important thing. Phase 3 trial is completed. WHO emergency use listing is being cleared by the subject expert committee. This is a very highly recognized body of the Central Drug Standard Control Organization. If this vaccine is being introduced, India will be the first country across the globe to vaccinate kids about 2 years of age. We will create record actually. It is waiting for approval from regulatory bodies. So question of time, may hit the market probably in Jan-February 2022. Next, we are going into the next vaccine, Covax. This is being manufactured by Serum Institute of India. This is also the recommended age group is from 2 to 17 years of age. It is being manufactured it is a Novavax. Novavax is one of the major vaccine manufacturing company in US. It's their candidate. It's being manufactured in collaboration with the Serum Institute of India. It is a recombinant nanoparticle vaccine. It's a subunit vaccine, protein subunit vaccine. It contains fragments of the novel coronavirus spike protein, but not its genetic material. 2 doses, 0.5 ml, 21 days apart. One thing we should remember is, since it's being manufactured by Serum Institute, we should not confuse it with Covishield. It has nothing to do with Covishield. Recently, the company has come out with a statement yesterday, actually, that it is planning to launch its vaccine in 6 months' time. Maybe probably in April 2022, we may have this vaccine. Next, about the Corbevax. This is the vaccine which is from Biological Seed. It is being manufactured by Biological Seed in collaboration with our Baylor College of Medicine in US and Dynavax Technology US. It is also a protein subunit vaccine. The vaccine consists of a version of the receptor binding domain of the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein, together with a very good adjuvant and an especially good protein called CpG1018, which is a very good adjuvant. The process of vaccine production is almost similar to hepatitis B vaccine. Currently, phase 3 trial in children is underway, and the recommended age group is from 5 to 17 years of age. It may come into clinical use in April 2022. Last, we have the J&J vaccine actually. The very special point about this vaccine is that it is a single dose COVID-19 vaccine. There was a talk about the risk of clots and low platelet count in women who are less than 50 years of age when it was introduced in that particular age group. But the benefit of the vaccine, what they have shown is, it far outweighs the rare adverse events. It is a non-replicating viral vector vaccine. The emergency authorization has been given to J&J actually, whether they are going to import directly or they are locally going to fill it and finish it, and it's being marketed by biological events. Usage of children, you have a huge question mark when it is going to be used, because a lot of controversies surrounding this vaccine. So this is about the recent news clippings which are slowly emerging actually regarding the increased severity in kids and more hospitalization. These are from a lot of hospitals in Johannesburg, Durban, Cape Town in South Africa actually. They have seen a lot of admissions in children who are less than 5 years. These are all preliminary data. We can't come to any final opinion currently, but they have observed more infection in children. So these are all some alarm bells for us actually to take pediatric vaccination quite seriously. So the key messages from my side for my dear friends would be: vaccination remains one of the strongest pillars of support and protection for COVID disease and infection in children. Early COVID vaccination in children is the need of the hour. Risk of long COVID disease and MIS-C are still haunting children. As clinicians, we will be knowing the importance of it. Currently, 5 vaccines are in the race, but personally, Covaxin has the edge over others in coming out first. Maybe we may have a Covovax next. And the most important point is that the indirect social benefits far outweigh the direct health benefits in children with regard to COVID vaccination. Thank you, friends, for your patient hearing. I am ready to answer any question.
Thank you, Dr. Amarraj, sir, for your excellent presentation. Any queries?